I'm Deion Imade, and this week on the Old Poke Show, Clint and I talk about that impressive win versus Kansas, and we preview the matchup versus West Virginia. All that and more here on the Old Poke Show. Welcome to the Old Poke Show. This is the show where we talk to Cowboy legends from the past and the present and review the OSU program going into the future. I'm your host, Deion Imade, alongside, as always, my man number 10, Clint Chelf himself. What's up, 10?
What's going on, man? It's another weekend coming off a win. So we've got a little bit of energy. Now we've got a winning streak. Feels good. It feels really good. The revenge tour rolling on a little bit, right? Last year, obviously, losing big to Kansas State, also losing to Kansas. They rolled up like 300 yards rushing. And that wasn't the case this weekend. So I had a great weekend. How was your weekend?
Man, you know what? I had a good one as well, and we'll get into all of the Kansas feedback and how we feel about that win from the Oklahoma State Cowboys. But first and foremost, I'm sure the listeners and the viewers really are interested to know how you're doing over there with the new addition to the Chelf household. How's everything going over there, man?
Yeah, man, it was. I think the first few days you're just so like exhausted and worn out, and then you kind of get your feet under you. And now we're to the point where trying to establish a routine, right? Because that's like, as you know, playing college football, that's what life is, right? Is a routine. Yeah. It's very structured, and so I like my days to be that way. And then you introduce a new baby. My wife's obviously on maternity leave, so she's home more. So it's just trying to establish some semblance of a routine is like the phase we're in right now, because you can get off the rails pretty quick when everybody's at home. And it's like, okay, let's just, sit on the couch and watch Netflix or something. So it's hard. We're getting sleep though, so it's good.
Good. I think that's what everybody's kind of curious about, is like, how much sleep are you getting, and is that how difficult it is? That, I mean, am I taking some quality rest time away from you right now doing the show?
I would probably be asleep towards the end of the show, but no, we're getting great sleep, and it's going fantastic. Mary, my wife, is an absolute rock star, and she takes care of the night, so I can at least get a little bit of rest, which is great. And then I wake up with our oldest, Chloe, and get her ready. So it's a good trade-off, man. You gotta have balance. Gotta have balance.
Speaking of balance, going into that Kansas win versus Oklahoma State and the Jayhawks, balance was in abundance in that game, especially offensively, especially for, the one and only Ollie Gordon, who had a phenomenal day rushing and out of the backfield catching the ball. So speak about that balance a little bit, Clint. Let's get your early thoughts of the game, and what was some of the high notes and some of the things that you took away from it?
Yeah, I obviously, as you mentioned, the balance, and it really feels like this team has especially the offensive line found its stride, right? There was kind of some shuffling early on, and there was even shuffling during this game with Dalton Cooper starting at left tackle and then going out. Springfield came over to left tackle, but this offensive line, this run game seems to really starting to gel, and it's I don't want to look too much at the past, but it's unfortunate that it didn't gel sooner. We're obviously grateful that this team is coming together and playing well, especially running the ball, and a lot of it has to do with players settling into positions and getting more snaps. But I've been really impressed with the offensive line. It's a group that has been much maligned, especially by me. I haven't spoke too highly of them, and I thought they did a great job. And the running schemes specifically, which we can get into, because I also want to give a hat tip to Coach Dickey, Coach Dunn. I thought the game plan was great, but the offensive line, I feel like I need to give props to those guys. Especially even with Cooper going out, he kind of solidified. And I feel like this offensive line really took off when he earned that left tackle position. And with him going out, they still performed very well. So
Yeah, 38 rushes for 218 yards on the afternoon.
Yeah, the only complaint, and I don't really know if it's a complaint, 29 carries for Ollie is a lot of carries.
Yeah,
Um,
29 carries and what, 174 yards, or
uh,
a net of 168 yards.
160, yeah, is what it's showing. But that's a lot of carries, man. And there's some other talented guys. I thought Nixon looked good in there. I feel like
Mhm.
there was a couple times where Gordon, where Ollie was a little gassed and he stayed in and
Bro,
kind of needed to hit. If Nixon would have been there, he would have hit a hole and it would have been an explosive gain. So
it's
that's
like
my
you're
only really complaint right there.
it's like you're in the radio booth with me because I was like literally showing my whiteboard to John and Dave. I was like, bro, Ollie is gassed, man.
Yeah,
And there was one play in there, and I want to say it was just a nice hole in the fourth quarter.
yeah.
And right when he hit it, you could it was like two plays before they were trying to run some tempo. So I understood why they had to keep
Mhm,
him in there because they didn't want to give Kansas the opportunity to run some players in and out and mess up the drive. But he was tired, and I knew, especially with the speed that Jaden Nixon has, if he was in on that play, it would have went for 6. And Ollie just mustered. It was still a big play. I think he still got like 15 yards out of it. But I was like thinking to myself, man, if Nixon's in there, bro, he breaks that thing wide open. And then he came in a couple of plays later and you saw the certain burst and the speed. And I think he like got tripped up on like the 3-yard line. And
mhm.
I think you're knowing the drive that I'm talking about where the Cowboys had to settle for a field goal and didn't get in. But like I feel like if Nixon's in there, bro, he busts that thing wide open.
Yeah, there was a play in the first or second quarter where uh, Ollie was gassed, and I think it was just an inside zone run, reading the defensive end, and he kind of froze for a second, and Allen handed it off, and Ollie just was a step slow. That D end was able to close and kind of get him by the shoelaces. And if he would have been fresh, or if Collins or Nixon, whoever would have been in there, I think they would have gotten a really good run. But that's a minor complaint. I do like I mentioned a little bit ago. Uh, I thought Casey Dunn, and I don't know if this is something because, as you know, Coach Dunn's been there a long time. He was there when
Mhm.
we were there, but in 4 down cover 4, that was what everybody ran. So if
Yeah.
he's just more comfortable calling plays against a defense like that, I think it's easier to play against. Honestly, from my experience, I would prefer to play against a defense like that. But I thought he did a great job from the opening drive with the screen. There were some really cool, if you're kind of a sicko, really cool run plays with double tight ends, kind of pulling, running some kind of. It looked like the 49ers, some of
Mm.
some of their run game stuff. And you're seeing this more now. I think you saw it if you watch Monday Night Football. The toss into the boundary, the short side of the field. We had a lot of success with that. I thought that was really good.
Why is that?
Um,
Why is that something that is successful? I've always thought, like as a defensive player, you would run those tosses to the field, the wide side of the field, to give the running back more, more room to work, more cutback lanes. Why is that toss in the boundary so attractive to you guys?
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason, right? Is the defense expects you obviously to run, especially if it's same side. So say you're on the right offense's right hash, that means the boundary is to the quarterback's right, and the running back lines up on the right. Typically, what you're going to see is him coming across for a handoff, right?
Yeah.
And so you've already got the defense outflanked. The angles are really good on that, just by alignment, especially in a 4 down. So your blocking angles are really good. It's just you basically block down and then send whoever pulls. I forget who they had pulling, kind of kicking out. And you've got really good angles. That wide receiver, it's an easy block for him to get to the safety. Obviously, it's not very far. So
Yeah.
then you're typically leaving a corner against either a big running back or a pulling offensive lineman, which is something that you obviously would take. So it's just one of those things where by alignment they've kind of seen that the angles match up to get some down blocks and some good pulling opportunities. But uh,
Not
they scheme that up, and that's something that you're seeing across all levels of football right now. So I was really impressed with that.
not to go too football nerd on everybody, but I was just really curious about that whole toss in the boundary. It just never
Yeah,
makes
because it works.
Yeah, but I see the method to the madness.
Yeah, and then my last kind of just overarching talking point for the offense. We can get into more stuff if you want, but the red zone stuff using Brendan Presley down there. I think that is where he's going to excel. If you told me, if I'm going into a drive from the 20-yard line, got to go 80 yards, and it's Ollie Gordon, to the red zone, and then it's a Brendan Presley. That's kind of what the recipe is for me. I think when it gets tight down there, you've got to rely on guys who can get open, who are quick, who are shifty, can create some speed, create some a little throwing lane for you there, a little separation, and he's a stud at that. So I liked his usage overall in the red zone. And then I do want to highlight Alan Bowman, 28, 41, 336, 2 TDs, and most importantly, no interceptions. So
you always got to give the quarterback some love, don't you?
Those are good. I mean, 300 yards, no picks.
You didn't get the memo. This is the Ollie Gordon show, all right?
Well, we can get into that. We got helmet stickers, we got stuff, but I think that's. Oh, Rashad Owens. I didn't want to mention him. I've got him written down 9 for 112. He's kind of really he's really come on these last few games. He had the touchdown catch in the Iowa State game, I believe. And he's kind of stepping up, which is great.
Would you have thought that out of all the talented receivers that we have on this Oklahoma State, staff and roster, would you have thought Rashad Owens would be the dude to step up after Stribling went out with the injury? Be honest now, Clint.
Probably not. No, probably not. He would have been, and even further down coming into the season, because I did not until the last two weeks or so were we on the Stribling train. I wasn't for sure about him, just having not really seen him that much. But with Stribling, Shetron, Bray, you got Rashad Green, obviously Presley. You've got the slot guys, but
right.
I mean, there's a lot of guys ahead of him. I felt like,
and let's be honest, Clint. Let's be honest. Last year they were using him as a cowboy back.
Yeah.
Last year he was a dude that was, had his hands in the dirt a little bit, and they were using his big body as, a blocking wide receiver and somebody that they can put at the tight end position a little bit and, kind of gain an advantage on these linebackers that are going to have to guard him one-on-one. I mean, now putting him on the outside once again and him being able to take advantage and find some connection with Bowman, I didn't see that in the cards. So, I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, this is a welcome surprise.
Yeah, it is. And I think if you listen to Coach Dunn talk about him, all that stuff has added to why they like him. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that will do whatever it takes, right? I mean, you just talked about it. And I think if you listen to Coach Dunn talk about him in his interviews, he's kind of the guy that is old reliable for this offense, which is, that's good. That's what you need. So overall, great win. I thought the offense, kind of hitting that stride. Hopefully, as we talked about, you want to get better each week. Another challenge coming up this week, but that's kind of my general thoughts on the offense. Unless you've got something else to add, we can move on to your defense.
Yeah, I mean, again, you kind of touched on everything there as far as the individuals and their performance. Again, got to give credit to the offensive line. I mean, we were hard on them earlier in the season, and they've kind of figured some things out and allowing these guys allowing there to be time in the backfield for Bowman to get things done and giving running lanes to these running backs like Nixon and Ollie Gordon to, make something out of nothing, which was nothing earlier in the season, but now there's big holes and there's a lot of running lanes. So give credit to them where credit is due. So I definitely wanted to mention that before we got out of here.
Yeah, I mean that first, if you looked at, I think it was the first touchdown, the flea flicker check down. I mean they had to block for a long time. Second touchdown, they had to block for a long time on that, man. Those plays take a while. and allowed Bowman to kind of come back down to the check down, which I bet if you practice that play, I remember practicing flea flickers almost from that exact formation.
All the time.
I don't think I ever checked it down once to somebody in practice. I never threw it short to checked it down to the guy. And half the time they wouldn't even come out because they knew I wasn't about. Nobody was going to throw it to him. But really heads up play there. So
let's talk about that play a little bit if we can like do a little deep dive. Okay. Presley really messed that play up and got rewarded for it. Am I wrong or am I right? I mean, the way he like ran into the line. I mean,
he didn't really.
The execution was too fast.
Yeah, he went too fast. He was too excited. Didn't really sell it. I don't know how often the defense is even gonna look back there and think, oh, they're handing it to Presley up, to run up the middle with, right? I mean, I don't know. It's a little fishy, but it worked out. So
it definitely
yeah. He's not. We're gonna have to get our boy Anthony Hill to give him some acting lessons or something because that
wasn't it, Coach.
Wasn't it.
That wasn't it, Coach. I mean, it resulted in the play that we wanted, but I mean, we're giving him a little bit of a hard time here. But yeah, that wasn't it. That's not the way you're supposed to run that play. But you get a touchdown, who can really complain?
Yeah.
But let's shift over to the defensive side of things, man. The defense, they had a day. They had an emotional day, a very up and down day, but they had a day. And the reason I say that, let's start with the good, man, because
I was gonna say up and down it was way down and then it was way up. I mean that first half to second half was Jekyll and Hyde if I've ever seen it.
It started off so good though, Clint. I mean, Kansas tried to come out and do exactly what they've done in the past, what they've done this season, what their offense is known to do, and that's run the football. And they ended the game with 29 carries for 90 yards. They held a run-dominant Kansas offense to less than 100 yards rushing.
A team that openly talks about wanting to be the number one rushing attack in the country.
Yeah. With two guys, first of all, they're number 4 in rushing in the Big 12. And two, not one, not two guys in the top 15 and pretty much the top 10 because Daniel Highshaw, product from Moore, Oklahoma, is 11th in the Big 12. That's really close to 10. And then they have the star running back, Neal, who comes in as the 4th best running back in the Big 12 with the 4th leading rusher in the Big 12. So, like, those guys, probably the best tandem, if not best tandem, definitely best tandem in the Big 12, but has a very good argument for best tandem in the country.
Yeah, outside of, I'm thinking probably Michigan, but also Jason Bean. I mean, that's a guy that ran for close to 100 yards against us just last year.
And it's like a 10-600-yard dash.
Yeah.
Bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and seeing what happened last week versus Kansas State when Howard, was able to saunter down for like a 71-yard rushing play, I'm sure he was like excited about getting out here and, showing off his wills.
Yeah.
And one conversation between Coach Nardo and Coach Gundy where they're like, Coach Gundy looked at him and said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm not about to sit on that sideline and watch these dudes run up and down the field on us on our home field. Like I'm not about to watch that." So this defense sold out on the run. And you could see it from the very, very beginning that they were not going to let Kansas run the football on them. In the first series, they went 3 and out. They tried to, do a couple option plays, couple of stretch runs. Our guys were coming downhill, stretching it out, filling their gaps, reading their keys, and making plays. And Kansas soon realized they're not going to let us run the football. So much that, the running backs were discouraged about what they were doing. I mean, they broke a couple of tackles here and there, but they were having to break a lot of tackles to get positive yardage down the field. The thing that was killing us, was when you don't have help on the back end and you're letting your secondary play on islands, big plays will happen. I would have liked them not to happen as frequently as they did and in the positions that it did, but they're going to happen. And it was unfortunate because sometimes it just seemed like there was a slight adjustment that could have been made here or there, and that play wouldn't happen. Or you could have like limited that play, and although it's a big play, not go in for a touchdown. There was mistakes made here and there. But when you sell out for the run like that, things are going to fall apart on the backside, and you're going to be susceptible to big time plays. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I think, and it's not the cornerbacks. People are not really throwing the ball against our cornerbacks. So shout out to those guys. It's leaving when you get these big safeties on an island in coverage against a slot guy. I mean, it's just so impossibly hard to stand at 10 or 12 or 15 yards, with the guy running straight at you. And he can go by you, he can go right, he can go left, he can stop. I mean, and you're just standing there. It's really hard. And I felt like the second half adjustments were incredible because, as you mentioned, the game plan early was to stop the run game. Those safeties were on islands, and they got beat a little bit. But I'm just thinking back about it, and at least to the Iowa State game. Now, the Iowa State game and this game, there's about 5 plays that were either busts or slips or leaving these safeties on islands when that's just a bad play call. There's about 5 or 6 plays that you take those out, and this defense is 5 of those plays are probably touchdowns are touchdowns. And if you limit those to just big plays, this defense is really looking pretty good. The one play they came out, they huddled, and they did the old left tackle ran out, lined up at receiver. I mean, it happened so fast. The communication on that has to be like automatic to get that back to the safety. Some of those plays are honestly trick plays that you just, that's a coaching point this week. If that comes up, and you could talk about the coaching point on that.
If I was thinking, man, I would have asked our producer, Jason, to kind of pull that play up and show a still shot of it, because the fan base needs to see that, because that resulted in not 1, but 2 touchdowns, Clint. 2 touchdowns. And if you take those points off the board, this is a big-time runaway win for Oklahoma State, because it was a simple scenario where you look across, like as a safety, you're taught to count out to in and align yourself in that manner. You're not taught to look and see if something's eligible or something's not. Things happen way too fast in this game for you to do that. So you look on one side and you see 3 receivers, and then you look on the other side, you see 2 receivers, and then you don't see the tight end. The tight end's lined up as a left tackle. 2 receivers closest to our sideline are lined up on the ball, or off. 2 receivers lined up on the ball, tight end lined up off the ball.
No. The receivers to our sideline were off. The tight end was on, and then the other side, the lineman and the receiver were both on.
See how confusing it is? You see, and they're supposed to do that on the field, like, bro.
And they break the huddle and snap it. I bet from the time they broke the huddle to snap the ball was less than 5 seconds.
It was crazy.
It's a hard play. It's a trick play, and that's what I'm saying. You can't just say, okay, let's take out all their big plays where they scored touchdowns, but you have to look at why they happened, and that's what I'm saying. And bringing up the Iowa State game, you look at the guy when we had the guy slip twice actually. And just having bad play calls on, it's like these are busts more than anything that are on us. If we clean this up, you tighten this up, you're looking at much different scores. And I know that you can't do that because you could do that to the offense as well. But it's just there's a few plays where it's just straight busts, and you're just like,
Iowa State was majority weather conditions,
that field was
horrendous situation. Yeah. There was that one bust where you see a receiver running right down the field and miscommunication from the safety and the linebacker. Okay, that can't happen. This one right here versus Kansas, you got to give credit when credit is due, Clint. That was just a great play design from the Kansas coaching staff. Just a great play design.
As Coach Gundy would say, they've got players and coaches that are paid too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's their job. You're gonna get got sometimes. We got. But I do want to say 25 points given up in the first half, 7 in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, the adjustments were made game to game or half to half, which were, I mean,
and you got to give credit to Nardo because he went in that locker room and he just told those guys, "Hey, calm down. You guys are playing good. There's plays here and there that have cost us dearly. There's plays here and there, but stay confident. Continue doing what you're doing. Trust us to get you out there, and you'll be fine." And honestly, bro, they were fine. There was again, there were big plays that they hit on that made the score closer than it was supposed to. And then there was this play right here.
yeah.
And look at the alignment right there. So the player who's going to score is the left tackle.
He's a left tackle lined up. For the people that are listening, we've got a still shot of the tight end eligible basically play where they split out the left tackle to wide receiver on the right and put the tight end at left tackle with two guys outside of him, receivers that are off the ball, so that he's eligible basically.
So pretty much how I count this as a safety is we go outside in. So the wide receiver that's pointing backwards on the 30-yard line at the top of your screen, he's the corners. This wide receiver on the hash, that's the safety, that's
Number
mine.
2, yeah.
And then you look down, and then you don't even notice this tight end who's highlighted right here because you're thinking that's a left tackle. He's ineligible. But if you look at it closer, you see both of these guys are off the ball. Well, both of these wide receivers are off the ball. Yeah. But if this wide receiver goes forward and runs a route, that's what's the penalty called, Clint? Illegal man downfield.
Oh, an eligible man downfield. Yeah.
So wisely, Kansas State pretends like he's a screen and he comes backwards. He doesn't run a route. He stays back. Tight end runs a route and you're good. On this side, closest to the boundary, closest to the bottom of your screen, you go corner. That's a left tackle right there on the number.
This is a coaching point. I just want to say this one thing. This is a coaching point that is incredibly detail oriented. What do you notice about how that tackle's lined up right there? He's been over. You can't see his numbers. You can't see anything. So that's all a coaching point. It's all hard. Makes it harder to identify him when he's been over like that.
But look at Rucker right here. He's trying to point this out. He's trying to communicate it. You can't be chill about this, bro. You have to emphatically scream this out and communicate it to Kendall Daniels so he can communicate it to Cameron Epps over there. He's got to emphatically scream 5 bells alarm, like wave your hand. Bro, this is a lineman. That guy's eligible. Move it down, move it down. He's pointing at the tight end right there. And it happened so fast, but oh man, if we could have that play back, and they do it again. I don't know if this is the second look. I think this is the first look, and I think there's another look they score on again that they get us on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you get this communicated, this play is so dead in the water because Kendall Daniels can take that tight end up the seam right there
all the way.
Oh, and it's completely dead in the water. So yeah, hats off to them. I mean, it's a good scheme. They obviously saw something throughout the week on film that led them to believe that this would be a play that would work. Whenever you put in a play like this, it's like basically it's like we're going to score a touchdown on this play whenever we call it.
But this is the thing. I think this is more of a situation where it's not who you're playing against. It's more of when we need to have a play, when we're in desperation mode, when we know things aren't going our way and we need to turn this game over, we have to call this because it will work. It'll work on, especially if you haven't seen it on film yet, it'll work on anybody. We just have to pick the right situation to display it. And for them to choose, I believe they were down 17-7 at this point, and they couldn't run the football. And the passing game was the only thing that they, had kind of going in the situation. And it was big time passing game plays. I think it was just like desperation mode. We got to call it because, man, that was I'm not going to lie, really good play call. And Coach Gundy was talking about it in the post game. He was saying, I don't think this is going to be a play that they can continue to run going forward.
No. And that's what we talked about, or at least, I brought up last week with the offensive scheme that our offense had against Kansas State, right? Was, we were running reverses, reverse passes, all these stuff. Those are typically not sustainable week to week. And this is a play that, the team's going to spend 2 minutes on this and film with their safeties and say, hey, if they line up like this, be looking. Once you see that tackle out, just go look at the tight end, right?
Yeah.
So
Again,
once you're coached up on it, it's not that hard because it's quite obvious when you see the tackle out there. It's like, oh, okay, the corner could be helping out. Obviously, he's the closest guy right there to the tackle. Him going nuts and make it as much of a ruckus as possible. But just it's a good scheme, man. I mean, hats off to those guys for
them knowing that we were running man to stop the run a majority of the time, especially in the first half, kind of aided them in this play as well, because it just takes one guy to be caught slipping, and it's a touchdown. And zone coverage, somebody can cover up that mistake and be in that area or whatever. But seeing that we're running man-to-man defense, and it kind of allows them to call that play. And I don't want to, that to be the takeaway from this game, because that was 2 moments where they had our number and they ran it to perfection. And
what is your takeaway from this game defensively?
My takeaway defensively is, when we want to stop the run, we can. When we want to, play fast and be aggressive sideline to sideline, we can. Now, that's not going to be the case that's not going to be the game plan every week. We can't expect that. We can't. We really can't, because there's teams in this league that can be a little bit more balanced, and it doesn't take a lot for the passing game to kind of eat us up. So, but I was encouraged by the fact that we have the athletes and the guys that can come downhill, fit, be aggressive, be smart, play your keys, and stop the run when we need to.
Yeah, I think the things that I was looking at from this defensive performance, and starting with stopping the run early, is their triple option, their zone read, all that stuff. Wasn't successful because they couldn't get our defensive line guys off the ball. They got no movement. And our linebackers, Nick Martin's speed, sideline to sideline, and the pursuit that this team is playing with right now is as good as I've seen an Oklahoma State team in a while. I mean, they get hats to the ball, sideline to sideline. If you try to run anything outside, they're filling those alleys and doing a really good job. The other point, and this is something we've harped on, back to maybe the South Alabama game, along the lines of the offensive line is missed tackles, and Oklahoma State had 3 missed tackles this game. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's something that if you listen to Coach Gundy, listen to him talk about, he just basically said we were kind of soft in practice. We were not being physical enough in practice, getting the tackling going, which, I mean, if what we talk about week to week is that you want to get better every week, I've said that already once about the offense. This defense is showing that, I think, and even game to game. But that stat right there, going from leading the Big 12 and missed tackles to having 3 in this game against what you mentioned, 2 running backs that are absolute studs, is very impressive. But I think my main takeaway is that the stars on this defense can carry this defense a long ways. The Colin Olivers, the Nick Martins, I'm putting him in there, the Kendall Daniels with the interceptions.
For sure.
I mean, Colin Oliver took this game over in the second half. I mean,
I was my heart went in my stomach when he went down, bro.
Yeah.
Because it didn't look good. It didn't look good.
His get off on the line on pass rushing is, I mean, it's NFL level quality. The guys, the left tackles, that he's going to start getting guys when he's lined up in that Micah Parsons, wherever he's at, to start early, to jump early, because he is so quick off the ball. It puts that tackle under so much stress. But he was everywhere, tipping passes. I mean, he's just a really smart football player. But the Nick Martin come up, whatever you want to call it, has been
come up. Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, his speed, and I was looking through because he kind of was in that spiral a little bit. He kind of sits there, and when Bean would break the pocket, at least on the last few plays, he matched him stride for stride. He even ran him down, I think, and caused him to fumble. And I'm looking at
he for sure ran through his stiff arm and chased him down. Yeah,
I'm looking at the quarterbacks we've got left. Garrett Green is a good runner.
Very
Obviously,
good runner.
we can talk about that with West Virginia. Emory Jones, big guy. He can run the football for Cincinnati. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel can run the ball. John Reese Plumlee from UCF, if he's healthy, he can run the ball. Donovan Smith at Houston is a guy who's big and can run the ball. We saw him some at Texas Tech. Outside of Keaton Slovis, I think that's how you say his name. He's the kid that he's transferred a few times at BYU. But, I mean, those are a bunch of quarterbacks that can run the ball. And having a guy like Nick Martin that if you need to say, hey, we need you to spy this guy, I mean, I'll put him up against any of those guys. I mean, his closing speed is just so good. And it's from a quarterback's perspective, it's like, okay, I break contain. I was never a guy that got spied on, but it's so much when you break contain, your thought is, okay, let's look downfield. At least for me, I was always thinking look downfield. And when a guy closes on you that fast, it's so hard to make up your mind in that moment to even throw the ball away. It's like, oh, he's on me. Like I got to, I can't even get rid of the ball. It's like, I don't want to do anything stupid with it. So it's so hard, just to play quarterback when you're used to breaking out and getting outside the pocket to run when a guy like that. So I just wanted to give a shout out. Those three guys, obviously Kendall Daniels.
But let me touch on that real quick before you move on from that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nick Martin is the type of individual on a defense that makes other people play faster, because you go into those defensive film rooms and they circle him and they're like, look how fast he's running to the ball and look how fast you are running. You look like you're standing still compared to him. And so with his influence, you're starting to see more people at the football and the sideline to sideline speed of the defense increase. It's just like, I've been in those rooms where they circle guys like that and like, look at how fast he's moving to the ball. Look how fast you're moving. And you're like, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing.
Coach, he runs a 10-5 in pads, and I'm not slow. I run an 11 flat, man. I mean, he's just faster.
He's like, and then they circle him like, well, it looks like you run a 15-second flat. There you go, buddy.
That's a great point. I don't have much more on the defense.
The turnovers, real quick. You mentioned the turnovers. Big in the second half in this game. Kendall Daniels, that was a incredible play by a safety, and that's a safety that knows his body, knows his positioning, and knows what he can do because he has the length to reach over, and like most safeties can't do that, but his wingspan is just incredible, and he knows that, and so he can take advantage of those positions right there. So that was an amazing play. And then the tip by Deshaun Brown, I believe, number 87, and Smith, the freshman, gets his first interception. Big time plays in those scenarios. So kudos to the defense to continue to get those turnovers, man.
Yeah. Before we move to West Virginia, I do want to say I don't think we can give him enough props, but Ollie Gordon, Doak Walker, running back of the week, getting some national love. I think, he's a guy that he could be there with what we've seen the last few weeks and the way this offensive line is trending. He could be on some of those national award watch lists late November, if he keeps it up. So shout out to him in that offensive line.
I'm gonna be honest with you. He can do that, but it's gonna take what you said earlier. It's gonna take some other running backs getting in there and giving him some breaks, because you can see the drastic change when he gets a little gassed. I mean, it takes him. He's a big guy. He's a big long guy. So you can tell the difference in him getting it from fresh starts to the end of the game in the fourth quarter. So it's going to take some more running back by committee to kind of help him out a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you from that standpoint, though, Clint.
You got any extra thoughts on on this last game? You want to do helmet stickers or anything? I mean, mine's fairly obvious. So
Yeah, I think we should just go ahead and do some helmet stickers. We kind of went long on the Kansas breakdown, so we do helmet stickers and then go to West Virginia and kind of give our little thoughts before we get out of here.
yeah, I mean, mine's Ollie Gordon. That's not. I think he did something that a running back hasn't done since like the '90s, with over 100 yards receiving, rushing, 29 carries. Not a whole lot more to say about that. I mean, he's as advertised. He's a guy that he can really take over a game for this team and has to be a feature the rest of the season. So
I was listening to Coach Gundy's coaching show, and he was talking to Ollie on Monday's practice, like walking to the field, and he looked at Ollie. He's like, "Now the key is you got to stay hungry. Like everybody's patting your back and everybody's saying you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, you have the student body chanting your name at the end of the game, bro. That's an experience that,
bro, that only happens for guys like you and Ollie, guys like Deion and Ollie.
They don't. When they say Deion, they mean Coach Prime. That's the Deion they're chanting over there.
They didn't chant my name if I did something bad, probably. Get him out.
But yeah, man. So now you don't start, smelling yourself over there, man. Like Coach Gundy said, stay hungry, continue to work, continue to grind, man. But,
So who you got on defense or special teams even? Who you got?
Man, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to give mine to an offensive player as well. Like
man. Give it to Alan Bowman. Do it.
I'm not giving the quarterback that much love, but Rashad Owens, man, I mean that was a big game. 9 receptions, 112 yards, especially in the first half. He was taking advantage of what that cover 4 defense was putting out there for him, and he was eating. And I wish I would have seen him be able to kind of finish and cap some things off with a touchdown. But Presley had to get his 2, so it can't be too mad about that. But 100-yard game for him at the wide receiver position, very, very well deserved. And he's got to get some credit on this.
Yeah, stepping up with Strib out. Huge to fill that void. So I love that one. Great call.
Yeah. Well, on to West Virginia, huh?
Yeah, and a team that I have, I spoke pretty poorly of them, and that's egg on my face early in the season. But I don't want it to just be me. They were voted last in the preseason media poll, and have come out, and I mean they've surprised everybody. Neil Brown, 4-2, 2-1 in the Big 12. And that's kind of a, not a misnomer, but they played Penn State, who I think Penn State's a top 4 team in the country.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
On the road as one of their non-conference games. So they could easily be, 5-1 right now. If that was a game that, was a non-conference team that they should beat. They also beat Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh just upset Louisville, who was a top 20 ranked team. So this West Virginia team, they play hard, they play physical. Neil Brown does a great job with their offensive defense. Garrett Green is a quarterback that's just kind of a Max Duggan type. He just kind of has that it factor for these guys. He inspires them. He's a guy that'll, get rocked, get his helmet off, get up, energy. Just kind of one of those guys that everybody likes to play with and play for. So, it's going to be a tough game. I said that they were probably the least talented team, I think, coming into this year. And now here we are as underdogs. They're going to be hungry. I don't know if you saw how that game ended against Houston, but that had to have left a horrible taste in their mouth, losing on a Hail Mary after thinking you won the game. So they're going to be hungry coming back. They're going to be coming home, looking for a win. And it's a team that beat us last year, right? I mean, that's a team that we thought we were better than obviously last year. I think when things started to go bad for us last year, we were like, well,
injury bug hit us real hard on that during that game.
We'll still get West Virginia, and then that game was sloppy. It was rainy. I think Garrett Green came in, ran the ball on us. So it's going to be a tough one, man. 3 in a row would be huge if you go into West Virginia with where they're at right now as underdogs and win, because that's a tough place to play.
That's a very tough place to play. And I remember from our senior year, man, that being in that game in 2013 and going into that place and being highly, rated and being a big time, a big time favorite and then coming out of there with a loss. It's a hard place to play. And especially the last time the Cowboys were on the road, it didn't fare too well. I'm a little nervous about this one. Although Garrett Green is one of those running backs that's going to stretch the play, extend it, make it hard. Especially if he catches you in man-to-man defense, he has the ability to run the football, and he's got some quickness to him. But this is a West Virginia offense that coming into last week, they were the 7th leading rushing offense in the Big 12 and last in passing. So it's a very run dominant team, a team that really wants to shorten up the game and pick up some first downs and keep their offense on the field. It's gonna be another contest that's gonna be you got to put your big boy pants on because they're gonna want to muddy up and dirty up this game. But on the top of that, like you mentioned, Clint, last week and the being a bit of an embarrassment. Here's my question though to you, and go leading into this game. You know what we have to do, but you have no idea what you're going in there and what you're going to face. Are you going to be looking at a motivated West Virginia squad, or are you going to be looking at a team that lets one loss turn into two? And I want to kind of get your football expertise on which one do you think happens more after a loss like that in a Hail Mary game?
I think it depends on the expectation coming to this year. I think this West Virginia team is largely playing with house money. I think everybody preseason poll picked last. I think that this is a team that has nothing to lose. Coming off a loss like that, Neil Brown saying, hey, look at, this is an Oklahoma State team that lost to Iowa State. They lost to a Sun Belt team. They've got, after they play us, they've got Central Florida, BYU, and then OU, but then Cincinnati and Baylor. They've got a lot of what they're going to say is winnable games left. And I think he's a good enough coach to get them fired up. So I don't think it's a situation where they're going to have some type of hangover. That was obviously an emotional game, playing against Dana Holgerson, who was a coach there for years, on the road. So I think that their mindset, because of the expectations or lack thereof coming into the year, is hey, we have nothing to lose. So I don't think that it'll be a situation where it's a hangover. I think if they came in and they were, hey, we're supposed to be top 3 team, and you lose like that, it's like, okay, look at more so what I would think happened to Oklahoma State last year, right? You lose a game down there at TCU, and then it just kind of all, that was not the beginning of the end, because if I remember correctly, we beat Texas the next week.
Yeah.
But kind of a situation where you have those expectations coming in and you lose a game like that, then it's like, okay, what you start to press a little bit. But with them, I think they're playing with house money at this point. So,
and you got to remember that's a long game to sit with. That was a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
And now they don't play again until 2:30 on Saturday. So it was a long time to sit with. And I don't know what we're going to be looking at and what team we're going to be walking into. But my question is, the next question I have before we get out of here is, does homecoming help? It's supposed to be West Virginia's homecoming weekend. And
I don't know anything about West Virginia homecoming other than they probably burn a bunch of couches. I don't know anything about it. I did want to say, when you were talking about the matchups and the offensive ranks for West Virginia, this game, if there is a little bit of a hangover, and I'm not quite buying into Oklahoma State's fully back, we're going to the Big 12 championship, because there's still a lot of issues, especially in that first half, that have got to be fixed. But if Dalton Cooper plays, and these are all feasible things in my mind, if he plays and we've got full offensive line, even if he doesn't, they've done a good job. There's a little bit of a hangover or a distraction from the homecoming. With the way that our defense matches up against the rush right now, and we eliminate some of those, those 4 or 5 busts that we've seen in the secondary, watch out in this game.
Yeah.
I think that this could be a game where if Oklahoma State plays a complete game, and I'm not trying to discredit West Virginia. I just think if we continue to get better each week, that this is a situation where the matchup is pretty favorable for the way that we've been playing defense, stopping the rush and having some busts on the back end if that gets cleaned up. I'm not going to go out there and say a score, but I just think, there's some things that they're kind of starting to build on each other momentum wise for this team. So I don't know.
Playing with confidence.
Yeah.
With confidence.
Yeah, they are. So that was the last thing I wanted to add real quick.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the last thing I wanted to talk about with the Ghost for West Virginia. I mean, we'll be able to dive into that one next week and see how everything plays out. But before we get out of here, Clint, is there anything that you wanted to mention before we put a end on this one and a stamp?
I don't think so. I think that's it. Appreciate everybody tuning in each week. We weren't able to get a guest for you this week to break down from West Virginia. So we appreciate you guys if you're still listening to this far in. I know we went pretty far. We were breaking down some plays and stuff. But,
we got a little football nerdy on this one, Clint.
Yeah, we did. And if you're listening, go check out the video because we had the play pulled up on the screen that we were talking about. Yes. So I know you obviously can't see it visually, but just want to say shout out to all the fans for the sellouts at the game, but also if you tune in and listen to us, we really appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get out of here, we do need to say congratulations to our friend of the show, Taylor Gooch, who ended up winning the Live Tour
season long. Yeah,
man, he had a phenomenal season and ended it the right way and walked out with an additional 18 mil. Man, Taylor, can I hold something now? Can your boy hold something? Nah, but he had a great season, and kudos to him and the whole Gooch family, man. That they did a tremendous job. So, Clint, ready to get out?
Yep.
All right. Make sure you guys tune into everything on OSU Max all across the board. The Ride, Pokes Pod, and all the good stuff they have showing and displaying over there. You guys really need to tune in, especially if you call yourself an Oklahoma State Cowboys fan. You got to know everything about the program. Then OSU Max is where you need to be. But with that being said, remember, guys, stay loyal and true.
Go Pokes.